Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Ayo me fele sama,
Me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
isa me fele sama,
me fele sama,
ay mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
brada me fele sama,
me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama.
mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Ayo me fele sama,
Me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
isa me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
me fele sama.
me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama. Ayo.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama,
Ayo me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
isa me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
isa me fele sama.
me fele sama.
Tendai Mwadi, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Kudzai Mudzima Mukuro, give praises unto our great ancestors, Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodia, African liberation and African power for all African people. Yes, kings and queens, this is ShakaRa here for another edition of ZIVANAYI. For those who may not be aware, the word ZIVANAYI, as spoken in the Shona language of Zimbabwe, simply means let us get to know each other. And it's our weekly show that we've been hosting on gotkushTV. Just to rev up the momentum for as we begin to roll out some new things and some new ideas, and and all them something there as far as content is concerned. And so yeah, man, I thought it would be prudent and wise and also beautiful and inspiring to just create a platform to interact with the people them on a weekly basis for the foreseeable future, and see how it goes. Yeah, so this is open house. All right, this is open house. I'll share whatever is on my mind, yeah, for the week, and you can come through, and share whatever is on your mind. Also ask questions, add, change the topic, whatever. I just say it go. The only rule is productivity and respect. Yeah, rule is productivity and respect. You don't know. So yeah, man, we give thanks. Yeah, and let me do some housekeeping that I don't normally do. All right. So I want to say this. Yeah, as we begin to develop this platform, Got Kush TV. I am multi-streaming, by the way. I'm multi-streaming so as to promote the Gotkush TV. All right. So check out the links in the descriptions of the videos and so on and so forth. You'll find that the specific link for Gotkush TV, and you will be able to come through on Gotkush TV to interact with us. Yeah, yasso. All right. So that's the major idea. So yeah, you might be seeing me on my personals right now, but come through on Gotkush TV because there's only thing there. So in that spirit, I do want to say that we have a Patreon for those who want to support the thing and support us in our development. At the moment, there are no perks associated with your support, except for the fact that you're supporting something progressive and beautiful and powerful in terms of African and Pan-African media. Okay, so if you are moved to support Gotkush TV, please hit up our Patreon. Right about now, you can see it on the screen at the moment. And thank you in advance for all contributions. Yeah, we appreciate, love, and appreciate. Yeah. And also bigging up the chat, big up Setem Imhotep in the building. Big up Kyra K and all of the silent listeners who are yet to comment and yet to say anything. You don't know, we love you same way. Yeah. So last week, yeah, we got into a few different things. I started off by reviewing the event with brother Kemi Seba last week, and also we got into the issues surrounding Diane Abbott, MP, UK MP Diane Abbott, and this kerfuffle that she has got herself in relation to the subject of racism. Yeah, very, very interesting topic, and we see Wagwan. There's more to be said on that, and I may say more today that in terms, but not necessarily in terms of the actual specifics of what has gone on between her and the specific brother involved. But looking at it last week was looking at the fact that what the political implications of all of this are, in relation to how people are able to define, yes, reality. Yeah, there's a saying that power is the capacity to define reality and have people or others respond to your definition as if it was their own. And what happens is, whenever somebody, especially African people, break the mold, so to speak, yeah, say or do something that challenges the dominant definition, there are mechanisms within the social order to ensure that we are brought back into line. Yes. And we definitely saw an example of that in terms of how people responded to Diane Abbott. Yeah. And one of the major things that we saw and are seeing, I saw it's interesting, Diane Abbott compared racism as experienced by African people to racism as experienced by various other groups. And the only group that seems to have dominated the news cycles is that of the Jewish community. Yeah. There was an interview, not Piers Morgan, sorry, Keir Starmer was being interviewed by some journalist. I can't remember the journalist's name. And the journalist was pressuring him on condemning the comments of Diane Abbott and questioning him on whether the comments were anti-Semitic or not. Now, Diane Abbott again referred to gypsies, yeah, and Romas and all kind of other different people, right? But the interviewer, whoever was questioning Keir Starmer, leader of the Labour Party, for those who may not be aware, my international audience, yeah, was whether her comments offended Jews and therefore can be considered anti-Semitic, yeah. And I happened to browse brother Tomiwa Owolade, his page. This is the brother that wrote the article that Diane Abbott was responding to. And he's shared an article from a British well-known comedian whose name I'm forgetting at the moment. But he dropped this article in response to Whoopi Goldberg. Now, Whoopi Goldberg got in trouble a couple years ago because she suggested that what was faced by the Jews in Europe wasn't racism, because the Jews are another group of white people. And so it was inhumane, but it wasn't racism. There was upheaval and uproar in relation to this. And so this gentleman, who is Jewish, I do believe, wrote an article in The Guardian entitled "Anti-Semitism is Racism, Whether Jews Are a Race or Not." Yeah. Very interestingly, brother Tomiwa Owolade, this article was written in October of 2022, which is when the incident happened with Whoopi Goldberg. And brother Tomiwa Owolade shared this article on his Twitter page recently in response to all of this business around Diane Abbott. So the lesson in this, yeah, we don't want to miss the actual critical lesson in the hype. The actual critical lesson in this, yes, is the fact that it is perfectly okay, yeah, because in the article, the guy was basically breaking down the fact that anti-Semitism is a form of racism. That was his point, yeah. And he likened refusal to recognize it as racism as the same as when people say Black Lives Matter, somebody comes and contests it with All Lives Matter. So he says that the idea is that you try to negate a particular expression and make it generic, yeah? The interesting thing about that is that what the point that Jewish gentleman was making in the article is the same thing that Tomiwa Owolade and those who are supporting his argument are doing in relationship to Africans in terms of racism. Yeah. So we want to make Africans, the African experience in terms of racism, white supremacy, departicularized. We don't want to particularize that. We want to ensure that there is nothing specific, yeah, that African state claim to in terms of experience of white supremacy, racism. Okay, because that's what Tomiwa Owolade was doing. He was basically saying, well, all these other groups suffer. Racism is not black and white, yeah. Whilst at the same time ensuring and affirming that this particular experience of the Jewish community as regards to racism must be affirmed, must be defended. The perspective must be defended, and woe be to thee whoever decides that they're going to challenge that, especially with the particular experiences of African people. Yeah, that's what's taking place at the moment. Yeah, and that's what we have to understand. All right, that is what we have to understand. And so what I'm gonna do? What I'm gonna do is, yeah, I'm gonna share something, and I'm gonna open up the lines early. All right. So this is one of the reasons why it's very important for us to have um great luminaries. Yeah, one of our great luminaries is Mama Frances Cress Wilson. Okay, and she provided for us a functional definition of racism, white supremacy. It's also the reason why it's powerful and beautiful for us to have great luminaries like Mama Marimba Ani. Yes, because they teach us about the power of definition and the need for us to define our own reality using our own terms. Yeah, because the dominant society is invested in departicularizing the experience of African people, okay, and thereby negating it. And what you do when you do that is you affect a people's capacity to effectively organize, to address their own problems. And what they'll do is say, well, when you try to identify what the problem is and what your experience is, you're engaging in the science of victimhood. Yes. And this is to negate the fact that actually what's taking place is the science of analysis for the sake of problem solving. So they tell you that to identify your problem is to make of yourself a perpetual victim rather than a solver of those problems. But this is never done when the accusation anti-Semitism is waged against anybody. The Jewish community and those who defend them are never accused of perpetuating victim status and victimhood. They are simply defending themselves against attack. I wonder if we don't understand what me I say. Yeah. So what I want to do is share Mama Frances Cress Wilson's definition, yes, of racism. All right. And so that we're clear about this thing. Okay. And also clear that she doesn't necessarily make her definition exclusive to Africans in terms of who is subjected to it. What she does do, however, is make it clear who the perpetrators are. Yes. And that's why they have a problem with it. So the real issue is not even necessarily just particularizing the experience of African people, but particularizing racism as perpetuated by a particular group and serving the interest of a particular group. So let me just go in and sing right here now. Yeah. So Mama Frances Cress Wilson says to us, in all of her wisdom, our great ancestor says to us in all of her wisdom. Now, the first one I want to highlight here is this term, functional definition. Yeah, she says, as a black behavioral scientist and practicing psychiatrist, my own functional definition, not just an abstract definition, but a functional definition, a definition that allows us to operate and understand reality as it is, not all possibilities of reality as it could be, not all realities that may or may not exist in an alternate universe distinct from the one we currently exist within. No, a functional definition. That means one that allows us to operate within our current circumstance and reality of racism, white supremacy, is as follows. Racism, white supremacy, is the local and global power system, pause, not just system of ideas, not just sentiment, emotion, but power system maintained by persons who classify themselves as white. These are people that classified themselves as white. Sorry, 1 second. I'm just checking something. I thought so, there's something missing from this. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have to bring up something else where this is concerned, yeah? Because there's some words, there's some lyrics missing from this particular slide. And we have to make sure all of the lyrics, yeah, are there for Uno to see. All right? So we have to just bear with me, kings and queens, as we just bring up the rest of the lyrics. When you just know a definition and you realize, say, hold on, there's something wrong. Yeah. So we have to just wheel and come again. See? All right. We have to just wheel and come again. And we're going to do that right about now. Yeah. So bear with me as we wheel and come again with this definition. I want people to understand what I go on.
Hey.
Okay. All right. So everybody can see this now, yeah? All right. So Mara Wilson says racism, white supremacy is the local and global power system and dynamic structure. That maintained by persons who classify themselves as white, whether consciously or subconsciously determined, consist of patterns of logic, symbol formation, thought, speech, action, and emotional response as conducted simultaneously in all areas of people activity. Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war for the ultimate purpose of white genetic survival and to prevent white genetic annihilation on planet Earth, a planet upon which the vast majority and overwhelming majority of people are classified as non-white, black, brown, red, and yellow. By white-skinned people, and all of the non-white people are genetically dominant in terms of skin coloration compared to genetic recessive white-skinned people. Now, the genetic stuff is not what I'm focusing on here today, although it is relevant. Yes, although it is relevant, and if you want to understand the relevance of this, you will see that there is a whole group of Europeans at the moment who are talking about things like the Great Replacement and all kinds of different things. Yeah, this idea of genetic survival is very big, yeah, among them at the moment as it stands. However, yeah, what I want to focus on is this thing about power structures and patterns of perception, logic, symbol formation, thought, speech, action, and emotional response. Yeah. So all of these things we are indoctrinated into them. We know how to respond. Yeah. So we know how to respond when Africans particularize and centralize our own experience. We know how to respond, yes, when we identify the perpetrators of the crimes that we have been subjected to. Yeah. And we also know how to respond when other people do the same. And there is a lack of consistency between how we respond in relation to other people and how we respond in relation to ourselves, and how others respond in relation to us and other people who are not themselves. Yes. That is the point here. And so the issue is, are Africans allowed to centralize and particularize our own experience? When we say the Ma'afa, if anti-Semitism is a form of racism, what is the form of racism that gives expression, or the terminology that gives expression to the particular way in which African people experience it? Is there a particular way in which African people experience it? Yeah. Kyra here makes a point that I was gonna make. 6 million Jews died while leadership from the Belgian killed 20 million Congolese and even more with amputated hands and so on and so forth. Yeah. So a little piece before the suffering of the Jews in Europe. Yeah. King Leopold, under the leadership of King Leopold, the population of the Congo was halved. Yeah. And this is to say nothing right now about what is taking place in the Congo today. Yeah, because what happens is, as Brother Sly at the Brother Kemi Seba event said, they are able to obscure what is taking place with African people today under the banner of tribal conflict, ethnic divide. But really and truly, it's an economic warfare that is being waged for the benefit of Western governments and corporations. Yeah. That's to say nothing of the millions that have died in the Congo more recently. All right. But are we allowed to particularize that? When we say, are we allowed to say Ma'afa? And when we say Ma'afa, to refer specifically to the African experience, when we say anti-African or anti-Black or Afrophobic, does the world respond in the same way? Or are we accused of promoting victimhood and victim status? And why? Why is it important? Beyond just why are they treating us negatively? What is the political reason? What political purpose does it serve for them to respond to us in a particular way? In my humble estimation, the reasoning is that they understand, and it is understood, that Africans being able to identify our specific problems and experiences creates an analysis that necessitates a program that is anti-European imperialists in a way that Jews doing the same does not do, because via things like the State of Israel, the suffering of the Jewish people has been made the conscience of the Western world, and therefore the interests, the safety and the defense of people who identify as Jewish and white has been absorbed into the agenda of Western imperialism. Adatagwan. Yeah. And so Mama Frances Cress Wilson teaches us that we have to decode these dynamics. Yeah, we have to decode the dynamics. And so I'm just engaging in some small decoding today. That's just one thing that was on my head. I am now going to share the link for brothers and sisters to join the conversation if you so wish. You don't have to speak about what I've been speaking about. You can raise something else, and you can ask me a question if you want to about something else that's going on in the world. Feel free to do that in the chat or come live on the panel right about now. The link is in the chat. The link is in the chat. And I'm going to read some comments at the moment. Bigging up to Nat 9, Stella B, the Out of Noise podcast is in the building. Love my sister and my brother. Bigging up to Julanda Zachary over there in the US of A. Major big ups. Setem Imhotep says, please share the name link for this intro. Yeah. Love to hear it. As the intros, but I couldn't find it on YouTube with only the name of the band. Yeah, so the reason it is there on as a single song, but yeah, the group is called Isasi for those who may not be aware, and the song is called Bakabushi Nengle. Yeah. And I'll share the link for the tune little later on, Setem Imhotep, you know what I mean? So we give thanks, yeah, for that. But yeah, man, a serious tune that. Yeah, so we have to understand what the dynamics are, yeah. And don't allow people to guilt trip us in relation to this idea of victimhood, yeah. Because the same people that will say that Africans are trying to not victim shame, sorry, promote victim mentality and all the kind of things there, they will never, they never accuse other people of doing the same thing. Okay. And the reality is that our greats, yeah, who fought on our behalf, never used the analysis of our condition as a means for creating perpetual victims. You will not find that in the work or words of Papa Marcos Mosiah Garvey, Ya Santewa, Mbuya Nehanda. You're not going to find that in Namzama Madikizela Willie Mandela. You're not going to find that in Omowale Malcolm X. You're not going to find that in Osaje for Kwame Nkrumah. You're not going to find that in Assata Shakur. Yeah. You're not going to find perpetual victimhood promotion. You're not going to find that among Nana Amos Wilson and Baba Chinwezu. It don't exist. What you're going to find is an analysis that seeks to prepare us for engaging certain solutions. The link is in the chat, family, if you want to come through. ZIVANAYI, yeah. ZIVANAYI means let us get to know each other. So feel free to come through, raise any subject. It's open house, yeah. And I'm going to read some comments in the chat. What do they want from us, Kyra says? They got most of the wealth, including ours, and several Holocaust museums, including the one on Smithsonian Washington Mall. Where is our Congolese Holocaust Museum? And you know what's interesting is that up until recently, like when it comes to this idea of victim status, yeah, a significant amount of what is called international law, human rights law in today's world, was developed after mass European War II, the tribal war that took place in Europe, yeah, the ethnic warfare that took place in Europe, you know, during the 1940s. And a significant amount of that was shaped in response to what the Jewish people were subjected to in Europe, yeah, under Hitler and so on and so forth, okay? And as a result of that, reparations were said to be due to them. And rightfully so. You suffer that kind of a wrong. Repair is a principle of justice in such a circumstance. So as a part of that, the state of Israel was instituted, and Germany had to pay reparations on an annual basis, yeah, to the state of Israel. That's to say nothing of the kinds of support that other Western nations have provided that particular state. And up until recently, if not still today, Germany is still, yeah, supporting the state of Israel financially as a part of reparatory justice. Yeah, if it is not still going on, it ended very recently. Okay. And World War II and the Holocaust is a 1940s event. Okay. Let's bearing all of that in mind. Yeah. And so the state of Israel was considered to be necessary because the people that suffered at the hands of Hitler, it was said that they were due and required a homeland for their own self-defense. All right. So bear all these things in mind. Yeah. When people are having these conversations, and the same people like Tomiwa Owolade, affirm the particularization and the reparatory justice that was due and has been given. All right, I see. I was just about to bring you through. You dropped off. To the Jewish people, but want to deny it in relation to African people. Tomiwa Owolade would never write a book. Yeah, we went through the idea last week that Tomiwa Owolade is writing a book called This Is Not America, where he wants to separate the experience of Africans in the UK from Africans in the America and suggest that Britain is a bastion of human rights and anti-racism in a way that America is not, and that our experience is we are in the UK fundamentally British. More than anything else, we're British, and we have more in common with Britons of other ethnicities than we do with Africans or Black people anywhere else in the world. Tomiwa Owolade or anybody else would write a book of that nature in relation to Jewish people that suggests that before anything else, they are British. Before they're Jewish, they're British, and they have more in common with Britons of other ethnicities than they have with Jews around the world. It would never happen. Yeah? And no Jew, more fundamentally, would write something like that. Yeah, we'll see what I go on. Mr. IC3. I didn't plan to spend so long on this particular subject, you know. It just kind of went on.
Yes,
But I know
greetings. Thanks for letting me on. What I found
I guess we're gonna stay
interesting,
here.
yeah, what I found interesting, I think I was looking at one of your posts, and it's about the Akompong Maroons.
Yes.
Wow,
I'm glad
I
you
mean,
raised this. Go ahead.
oh my
I'm glad you
God.
raised it. Go ahead.
So let me
Go
see if
ahead,
I
go ahead.
understand it. So I understand from what your post is that the Akompong
Yes.
Maroons are concerned about Jamaica becoming a republic because then they'll lose. There's a chance they might lose their sovereign status because that sovereign status has been granted by the British government. And is that what's going on there?
I don't want to. I don't want to say yes to what you're saying, only because I haven't heard that in so many words. Yeah.
Right.
And I need to look into the specifics of the issue a bit more. Does that make sense? It does appear to be the case. I will say that.
It does appear. All right. So that's what it looked like to me. So
right.
You saw the same kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me.
Okay.
That's what it looked like to me.
But we don't know.
Now, what I will say is we don't know for certain, but that's what it looks like. Yeah. So what I mean by that
I know
is
what it looks like, but what it is, I don't know.
Yeah. Right. And I'm saying, so what I'm saying is I haven't heard anybody make that argument in so many words, but I've heard arguments that would suggest that is the case, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Now,
right.
But that is besides the point for me. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm bringing you through now. Yeah. Greetings, not nice to be. Yeah. Let me just respond to IC3 and then we're gonna come through, right? Okay, so let me just explain to brothers and sisters what IC3 saw from me that I shared. Chief Curry, yeah, is the chief of the Akompong Maroons. Yeah, he's become very popular in the last couple years. He became chief in 2021, I believe. Yeah, and he's had a number of different issues with the Jamaican government and others. There's issues among Maroons and so on and so forth. Yeah, and what the brother, and he posted today a video from another brother who's from the Windward Maroons, who is from another part of Jamaica. Yes, concerning issues to do with the Jamaican government and encroaching upon the rights of the Maroons in Jamaica as a sovereign people. Yeah, I challenged what the brother said because in the caption, Chief Curry said that he shared the video from the other brother. Yeah, Alex Moore. Yeah, is his name. And in the caption, Chief Curry said, we should decolonization is all good, words to that effect, but Jamaica cannot decolonize whilst colonizing the Maroons. So I said, well, it's a contradiction to talk about decolonization whilst affirming Maroon nationhood on the basis of a treaty that was signed with the colonizer. There is no decolonization in that process, right? You understand what I said, yeah? And you know, I half feel to bring up the post and play the video, yeah, and I may do that, yeah. But my point is this, yeah, that every year there are Maroon communities, and not all Maroons agree with this. And let me make that clear, yeah. But the treaty, the 1738 treaty with the British is celebrated in a Kongpong in Jamaica, Maroon village in Jamaica, Maroon town in Jamaica. And that treaty, as is put forward, is the basis for the sovereignty of the Maroons, because the Maroons fought the British for about 100 years, yeah? And the British couldn't beat the Maroons. And I am a Maroon descendant. Let me make that very clear, yeah? All right?
Took him blood
You know
now.
what I'm saying? Yeah?
Maroon blood.
Yeah? All right, yeah? And this is not questionable, yeah? I am a Maroon descendant, yeah? And the British couldn't defeat the Maroons. But what happened was that a treaty was drawn up, yeah, to end the war. And there are clauses in the treaty, yeah, first of all, that established the Maroons have a right to the land, yes, and so on and so forth. That's all well and good. There are also clauses in the treaty that seek to weaponize the Maroons against other Africans on the island of Jamaica.
That's right.
I.e., where other Africans rebel, other Africans who were enslaved rebel, it is the responsibility of the Maroons, based upon the signing of this treaty, to come to the aid of the British in quelling the rebellion, returning any runaways to the plantation, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Now, there are all kinds of debates about the extent to which the Maroons agreed to these clauses, and if their agreement was ever enacted by the Maroons themselves. I'm not going to get into that today, like in terms of the history of it. What I am simply saying is, today, yeah, this treaty and any allegiances to the British have to be negated and rejected if we are decolonizing. That's all I'm saying. You cannot decolonize whilst pledging allegiance to the British monarchy. The British monarchy is the preeminent colonial institution.
Right. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay,
you follow me?
If they are saying that they're a sovereign entity that has been recognized by the British government, then they're not pledging allegiance.
No, here I understand what I'm saying. They represent. If you listen to the video that the brother left, he speaks about the fact that he makes some statements that I think are historically factually wrong. But he also speaks about the fact that the Maroons had friendly and cordial relationship with the British.
Oh dear.
You understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
Oh dear.
Right. Now he does say that the British unfortunately engaged in the unjust trade and so on and so forth. Right. My point is, Britain is a colonizer nation. The Maroons in Jamaica were no less colonized than the rest of the island. The idea that they were operating as they weren't. Everybody on the island was colonized, especially post-slavery. Yeah. Right. So after 1838, yeah, the British never said, yeah, we're going to colonize everywhere except for the Maroon settlements. That's not how it went. The whole entire island was colonized. right? So the idea now, even
Wait a
if
minute. The Maroons would see that as an insult. How dare you say that? They say that we're sovereign, we're free.
But this is the point I'm trying to make. But today, the 1738 treaty is being presented to the Jamaican government as evidence of the sovereignty of the Maroons. What I am saying is, if the Maroons are sovereign, recognition and allegiance to the British state should not be the basis upon which Maroon sovereignty is established.
Right, okay.
Yeah? Who cares what the British say? If we are sovereign, we are sovereign.
Right. So
Jean-Jacques Dessalines say.
Okay, okay. So does the United Nations recognize the Maroons as a sovereign?
The United Nations, yes, has gone through the process of recognizing what they call indigenous groups. And I believe that they recognize the Maroons, not just in Jamaica, but all throughout the Americas as an indigenous group. Yeah? You follow me?
Okay.
But again, the United Nations is a neo-colonial institution.
I know. Right. I know. It's a mess.
Now, that is not to say, yeah, that within the context of the world order, there are not strategic things that we should do,
right,
in relation to the United Nations. That's strategy, right?
Yeah.
But the United Nations is not the arbiter of our sovereignty. It cannot be that.
Okay.
And if we in debate with each other are using the British monarchy and the United Nations to win the argument, something wrong. Yeah. You following me? Right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying so now you cannot tell me now that my sovereignty as an African is impeding on your sovereignty because of your relationship with the British government. That now go on. You see what I'm saying? If I'm going to war in the name of liberation with the British government and you're vexed about that, something wrong there, sir. Yeah? So I'm saying the Jamaican government is a neo-colonial institution. Yeah? And so even unless there is a significant revolution of mind and social order and consciousness and all kind of different things, the Jamaican government is likely to remain a neo-colonial institution, even if Jamaica becomes a republic. I am not saying what I'm saying in defense of the Jamaican government. What I am saying is that if we are going to affirm Maroon sovereignty based upon the Maroons' relationship with the British government, then the Maroon sovereignty is no less neo-colonial than the Jamaican independence.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That's the point I'm making.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah, we have to be clear about these things. There can be no allegiance to the colonizer. I don't care where it comes from. Me love the Maroon history, most of it. And I don't just mean in Jamaica, I mean all about the place. I am proud of the Maroon blood that runs through my veins. Yeah, but principle is principle.
Right.
And first and foremost, I am an African. And Maroons, some of the Maroons now are trying to make Maroonage a separate and distinct group from the rest of the African people. Them. So in the video, the Bridget made the point that the First Nation people should not be confused with the enslaved Africans on the island, as though
I heard that.
As though the Maroons are not made up of enslaved Africans.
Yeah, I heard that.
Africans
what's going on?
Me want to know a war go on Rasta. Yeah, a whole heap of different thing are going around here. Yeah, it's so anyway. Yeah, a whole heap of different thing are going around here. Yeah, the Maroons are made up of the same groups of Africans that the rest of that dominate the rest of the island, that populate the rest of the island. Yeah. Now, that is not to say that there is not. I'm willing to bet that most Jamaicans have Maroon ancestry. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I don't know any studies. Yeah, that bear this to be the case, but it's relatively, it's reasonable to suggest that a significant number, at least, of Jamaicans, even those who are not living among the Maroon settlements and so on and so forth, have come from Maroon ancestors. Yes.
Okay.
And I'm talking about people that were born or lived in maroon settlements, or because not everybody that is a maroon lives in a maroon town,
That's right.
right? You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
That's and that is a significant. But the point I was going to make is that doesn't mean that we shouldn't recognize the particularities of
Yes.
the maroon towns, yeah, and the specific culture as it evolved and developed among. I'm going to bring you through Setem Imhotep, yeah, now, yeah. As it evolved among our maroon ancestors.
Yeah.
All things being correct, I see free. I am saying that the maroon foundation should be the foundation upon which Jamaica establishes itself as a republic. Because among the so-called maroons is preserved the most authentic social order of the people of Jamaica.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Good
That's
point.
both of the African peoples of Jamaica and of the indigenous Taino people. Does that make sense?
Yes,
yeah,
that's right.
So the maroons should be the primary example that we use to develop,
Yes.
a true sovereign nation.
Yes.
But we can't do that. You know why? Because every time we talk to the maroon them I tell you about 1738 British monarchy and all them blow out there. Yeah, it can't go on.
Oh man.
Yeah, it not for go on them way there. Yeah, I see. I'm gonna come back to you because I want to bring in Nat Celebi and Setem Imhotep, who has graced us with his handsome face this evening, Kings and Queens. You know what I mean? So we give thanks, yeah. Nat, got you, King.
Yes, big up ShakaRa, Mr. IC3 Set, Imhotep, Makaru. Big up everyone, big up Gotkush. I'm just taking it back to what you were talking about earlier with Diane Abbott, ShakaRa. And I think, you know, as poets, we look into the words, right? And you know, certain people go into the etymological breakdowns of certain words, but as a poet, we got to look at the essence of the words and what they mean.
Right.
And what I feel with regards to racism is about owning the gravitas of what that means. So when it comes to being called a racist, not even the most extreme racist likes to be called racist because of the gravity of what that means and the archetype of what that looks like. So what they're actually talking about is the gravity, the weight of that word. So when Diane Abbott is like, if we're using words as they are, the Jewish people who most people recognize and see as Jews are white. So that is not an issue of racism when white people are brutalizing other white people. Similarly, no one's calling it racism when we have our battles on the continent. No one's calling that racism. But what they want to
call it tribal warfare.
They call it but what they want to own is the gravity of it. They want to own, like, racism. Out of the things that are out there, what you can call somebody is among the worst things that you can call somebody in terms of a human being. They want to own the gravity of that.
That's
simultaneously, as you were breaking down earlier, diminishing our ability to own the gravity of that. So they can own the full gravity of racism without challenge, whereas we have to be continuously challenged. And I thought about the levels of this. Like, every single time there is a white person, be it they a European English, be it they be old or young, there's a justification or a reason why they say what they want to say. So and theirs is not like Diane Abbott's. It's like blatant something, right? A racial slur, and they say it, and then you're gonna have a debate, and then on that debate you're gonna have somebody who's not quite Pan-African but black conscious, and then you're gonna have somebody who's going to be oppose that person on the panel, and then you're gonna have a Piers Morgan type figure who's gonna be the
100.
neutral. So they use that tactic all the time to diminish the weight
What,
of
100.
racism against us. But
Yeah.
with them,
100.
it's totally unchallenged.
Very good.
Look, yeah, I'm gonna say this. You see, when you see a black conservative talking head, yeah, usually in the media, oftentimes, yeah, they're connected to some think tank in the UK, and you know what it is? These people are so licky, like and beg friend. I noticed a trend here a couple years ago when these black talking heads here started to come up and defend Britain. You know, I don't need to ask if the funny thing is, right? The same people that say Britain is not a racist nation affirm 100% that Jews experience racism, right? You know what I'm saying? And if you don't assert that, yeah, then you're anti-Semitic, yeah? All right, okay. So they go through all of that now, yeah? And then what used to happen is when it comes to black people, like in 2020, you know, like George Floyd, there was a lot of black talking heads came out. You know what I'm saying? You know, this country's not a racist country, whatever. And under the comments, that they might go viral on Facebook or Insta or TikTok or whatever. And under the comments, you see all these white folks saying, "Oh, he's so articulate." You know, he speaks so well. Yeah, look how intelligent he is. Yeah, and I'm like, these people are so big friend. Yeah, that the little condescending white people they feel affirmed. Yeah, by white people telling them how articulate and intelligent they are. And it was a trend. I'm looking at these videos. It's hundreds of white people come and say, "Yeah, he's so, you know, smart and well-rounded young man and or young woman." It's like, come on, like, isn't this obvious to Uno? Like, it's obvious to me, Wagwan, in this scenario, yeah. And so a lot of these videos were made popular by like Policy Exchange, yeah, which is a right-wing think tank, yeah, in the UK. They started to share these videos on their Facebook and so on and so forth, yeah. And so a lot of the black people that you see on like GB News and everywhere else, and then remember the BBC did a documentary series last year called something like Black and Conservative or something like that. I think ZZ Mills hosted it. I haven't even watched it yet. Yeah. What's it called, right? I haven't even watched it yet, yeah. Now ZZ Mills has never self-defined as a black conservative, but one of her closest friends does, right? Lynn May, yeah. So ZZ hosted it. But I'm saying, now, can you imagine a documentary series on the BBC? No, was it BBC or Channel 4? Why them anyway?
It was Channel 4.
But this was basically advertising, yeah, to help perpetuate that standard, that image, yeah, that trajectory of what it means to be black in Britain. Yes, you can be black and British, and conservative and allegiant to the British state. Yes, because what is blackness anyway? You can't define blackness. Yes, so I can be black and allegiant to Queen and country. Yeah. Now I'm waiting for Channel 4 to do a documentary on being black and radical Pan-Africanists. Yeah. What's it called? In Britain. Yeah. I'm waiting for it. I'm looking to host it or star. Yeah, that is money that I would take. Right? Yeah, if you know what I'm saying, from Channel 4, BBC, any of them. Yeah, when you're ready for the documentary, yeah, on black radical Pan-Africanism in the UK, come find ShakaRa. Yeah, they're ready for it. Yeah, I will produce it. I'll bring all the guests that you need. Yeah, into the situation. I will do it. Yeah, and let's promote the black radical message out here in the land of the British establishment and all them thing there. Bigging up Otabenga. Oh, I'm gone. Okay, all right. Otabenga gone. But yeah, Nat, I'm gonna come back to you. Yeah, feel free to stay there.
Yeah, real quick, ShakaRa. Just
go on.
Yeah, the
yeah,
Tomiwa or Tommy, he wrote in it was the Guardian he wrote, which has to be noted as well. They are all
linked in like that, yeah. And I think the British have to feign objectivity in journalism, right? Because Diane Abbott's letter was published in the Observer, which is the right, which is considered to be right wing. Yeah, so the Guardian is considered to be left wing. So Diane Abbott wrote in the Observer. Then Tommy Waz's response was also published in the Observer. I haven't read his response yet. I'm not all that interested in it, but I did note that it was also published in the Observer. But the politics of the country at the moment is all moving right wing, and they've ensured that via the attack against Jeremy Corbyn and the left of the Labour Party. They want to ensure that things move, while at the same time Nigel Farage and UKIP and the what's Nigel Farage's the Brexit Party, and there's another one that's come up recently.
Reform.
Britain.
UK.
Britain First.
Yeah, right. Yeah, have been popularized on that side. Yeah, but the level of demonization that took place on this side, in terms of has not taken place on that side. So it's a political game. Yeah. And the political game is to ensure that the younger generation of Africans in this country have an allegiance to the British state. Because if we have an allegiance to the British state, we are less likely to rebel against it. I'm going to make one last point. The problem that they have with the left is that the left has too many holes in it, right? In relation to allegiance to the British state. Yeah, right. So you can be on that side. It's more likely to produce some anti-British people that are willing to challenge establishment in a certain kind of way. Go ahead, make your next point. Go ahead.
And yeah, no, with that, the dangers of it, I'm like, yo, are you lot not seeing Wagwan? The Chancellor, what's his name? Kwarteng. Yeah, the way he was treated, are they not seeing this? Are they not, like, the cooning, buffooning stuff does not protect you from being dashed away at any given moment? Or
exactly.
It will not get you the place around the table. You'll be in the room. You'll get the little chair at the side of the table, but you're not around the table. They need to.
That's right.
Cooning does not help you in life in the long term.
There's two things there. You're right in terms of the popular sphere. Yeah, there's enough of the media that will dash you away. Kwesi Kwarteng is going to be good though. You know why? Because the politics and the economics that he was promoting are well funded. He was promoting like hardline neoliberal policies. Yeah, that man they went in. Him and Liz were not having it. Yeah, they went straight for the free market fundamentalism. A lot of these think tanks that are well funded, that's the kind of politics and economics that they promote. Yeah, so don't worry. The mainstream of the conservative may have dashed away Liz and Kwesi for a little while. You know, we're gonna put them on the background a little piece. Don't worry, the think tanks, yeah, are gonna house them. Believe me, right? What's it called? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna embrace them and give them, you know, a fellowship or two, and all them thing there. Kwesi's gonna be good. You know what I'm saying? But you're right though. On social media, they're gonna them tearing to pieces. Like the poor brothers them that missed the penalty in the Euro. So yeah, you know what I'm saying? What day, yeah, you know? I say it go. Give time. Stay there. I'm gonna come back to you. I'm gonna get in Setem Imhotep. Greetings, my brother.
Greetings to the panel. First of all, I just the elder, Mr. ICG. Thanks for you for being on the panel. I see you on speaker's corner. I appreciate your manners, your decorum, and that kind of thing. Peace to the panel. I actually kind of wanted to tangent a little bit, so I don't know if you want to continue the conversation first and then come in afterward. It's actually
feel free to go where you're going, King.
Well, okay, so what I've been contemplating Pan-Africanism for a long while. I think probably since I was like 20, 10 years now. I'm trying to figure out what would be my best sphere of influence. One of the skills that I have gathered is in like editing something rather than being generatively creative. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe not to
say that again, because your mic can go ahead and come out.
Oh, sorry. I was saying that I've realized that some of my skills are in editing rather than in being generatively creative.
Okay.
I hear you. Go ahead.
And so I had an assignment in university where we had to write 5 journal entries from a slave who joined a slave revolution. And I was blessed by the
Right.
teacher with the book Black Jacobins. And so instead of Toussaint, I chose Jean-Jacques Dessalines. And you actually mentioned him
Yep.
earlier. So I wanted to share maybe the 5
Yep.
journal entries because I've been contemplating since my skill is in editing,
Mm,
doing some kind of historical fiction
mhm,
where we bring to life our heroes, our blessed ancestors who have gone in a novel form,
mhm,
not novel meaning new, novel meaning fiction writing, so that we can kind of personalize them and their experiences. So I'm going to share the link in the back
mhm.
chat, and I'm hoping you'll be willing to
Yes,
read
sir.
it for the audience.
Give thanks.
I'm pretty nervous.
Hold on there. It'll come up. Correct if I'm wrong. Did you say what you're sharing is what you wrote? Oh no, this is not your writing.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Oh, it is. Okay. All right. Cool. What is it you want me to read?
As from from the start to the bottom if you like, but as much as you'd like, it's just
Oh, right.
so
Okay.
basically, what I would have done is taken the book Black Jacobins and tried to craft a narrative of Jean-Jacques
Yes.
Dessalines' life at particular points during the revolution. I chose closer near to the end of the revolution because he had a bigger influence at that point. But
Rolling
yeah.
that. Yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, and so you wrote this in the first person. I see.
Yeah, well, because it's supposed to be a journal entry. He's writing in his journal.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I
So
see what
hold
you
on,
did there.
just to be clear, this is not a novel idea. My sister used to read this series called The Princess Diaries, and they are basically exactly the same thing, but written from some historical princesses. It's almost totally fiction, but that's where I got the idea from.
Right.
No, yeah, but historical fiction, so to speak. I'm bringing you
Historical
through again that
fiction, yeah.
now. Of yeah. So Toussaint said, I am sorry. John Jack Dessalines, this is the 7th of March, 1802. I have been entrusted by Toussaint with the defense against the French of this valuable guardian of Cahos Mountains. His pretty plots depend on it and on me, and I strive with a door to do my part to ensure the protection of these blacks under my care. He did not permit me to raise it to the ground. Sorry, I'm laughing. If you know anything about the character of Jean-Jacques Dessalines, then you know why that's funny. Yeah. What's it called?
Not just
Uh,
that, not just that. A little earlier
yeah.
in the timeline, they had started when the French had invaded. They had started the campaign by burning every town that they lost to the French. They burnt it straight to the
Everything.
ground.
Yeah.
Every fortress, everything.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah. Everything that went up. Yeah. True. And though I did not know then, I do intimate his plan now. He intends to strike with vigor at the French and serve them as they have long served us. And though I grieve not to be a part of this valorous engagement, I suspect that I shall have my fill, even more so than already I have, of blood and of violence and of cruelty. I cannot with good will abandon my post, even as Toussaint, afflicted as he is with fever, most violent, goes valiantly about his duties for the liberation of this land and our people. I said it to his face and say it again, this fort will fall only if I do. I had the men erect and redoubt. Is that it? Yeah, redoubt.
Yeah.
Some distance from the fort, leaving a command of men there and doing the same at Crete Periot. So forgive me, my French not good, you know what I mean?
Period.
What's it called?
Yeah.
Period. Yeah, sit there, girl.
Think Peregrinade. I don't know if you know that carnival character with the Peregrinade. Creta
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cretapero. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Rose swiftly onwards to meet the bell, the filthy Frenchman who first thought to test our defenses. The fool, and you got reference in here as well. So I assume these references go back to the Black Jacobins. You got
at the very end of the entire article, you'll see all the page numbers and
right,
everything. Yeah.
right. Okay, good. The fool followed us with great earnest, not suspecting at all what I had in store for him. As we approached the fort, the men and I, tired but determined after our flight from the bell, jumped hastily into the ditch at Afor Clet Eperio, leaving the Frenchmen naked to our weapons. Oh, how I smiled to see them fall. Oh, how I rejoiced to see their bodies splayed on the field, their blood sating the thirsty ground. 400 of the dogs fell, and our brave artillerymen, sharp of eye, wounded two of their generals. The pounding of their flight was was such magnificent music to my ears, though they soon took up positions surrounding the fort. I spoke well to the garrison thence, filling their hearts with courage before my eyes. Those without the strength to fight against all odds for their lives were invited to reshackle themselves and fly onwards, to the French. I reminded them that the French could not long survive our weather, that the fever would soon take them and decimate their ranks. When the French grow fewer, I said to them, we shall prod and harass and dwindle their numbers by pieces. We shall beat them, destroy the crops, and fly swiftly to the mountains. Yeah, I put into their hearts the magnificent dream of mine, independence. I showed them how they themselves could initiate it, if only they would fight with valor and without quarter to make it so, and how they enjoyed the sound of the word independence. I thought, I'm going to complete this part. I placed in stout La Martiniere. Yeah. La Martiniere's hands. Yeah. Hands the redoubt for protection. And with him went his wife, Marie Jean. Ah, yes. They undertook the development of the defense of the redoubt, while the majority of the men remained with me inside Clete Perion. The French sent a herald, the fools. Did they think I would allow any of their to infest my men? We shot him dead, and good riddance. Their words are poison, and they lie with every breath. I would not allow fancy words or twists of tongue to corrupt the good spirits of the revolutionary men. I said to my men that I would destroy the fort with fire and explosives before I let the French set foot within it. My good men stand beside me, ready as I am to die for liberty. There will be more bloodshed yet, and I face it with enthusiasm. I will repay these monsters in blood for our dear dead brethren. We want for water and for food, but our men stand strong and willing. Word has been sent to the chiefs of ambulance to supply poison for the officers. Should it look like we are going to be overrun, there will be more bloodshed yet, and I face it with enthusiasm. Jean-Jacques Dessalines' diary entry, 7th of March, 1802. That is just under 2 years before the revolution came to fruition. and the island was declared independent. My brother, this is beautiful work, man.
Yes, very interesting.
I appreciate that.
And it's me don't know where you talk about when you talk about how creative you are, because this requires creativity. So
That's
I
right.
see what you're saying about editing, but yeah, this requires, you know, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Me love how you are going. I'm gonna share the link to this in the actual main chat. So if anybody else wants to read this, and also it's important because it, as a beautiful piece of historical fiction, you know, you could turn this into a play, right?
That's right. Or movie or theater. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm super invested in the idea of like a Black Game of Thrones, and I think specifically the Haitian Revolution is a really good place to start.
Yes, definitely.
Yes,
So in terms of a period drama,
Yeah.
where it's Africans being centered, but you know, the Pilskins still love to have their people in the show, so there'll be a lot of them still in the show. You understand?
So is this what
But
you,
yeah,
is this the kind of thing that you do? You write like this?
I
Is this like your go on?
I don't want to say that I do that, but I would like to do more of it, because I keep coming
See,
back to
because
this
so
piece.
you got a talent, bro. So as Nat and I alluded to earlier, yeah, I'm a poet. I'm a spoken word artist, and I have done spoken word theater. Yeah, so me and my collective Best Kept Secret are that with upon. We write plays and put like spoken word theater productions, and I've been trying to write a play for the last few years, and I have a problem. I have a blockage sometimes when it comes to scripting. Like, you know, like you have the whole of the idea, it did it, but to put it into a script for me is a thing. Right, I don't know what it is, but I'll get over that at some point. I say that to say, like, I have some experience with this thing, and I'm trying to improve myself in this thing. But you're on a level, my brother. You know what I'm saying? This is excellently well, like, you know, I can visualize the thing. Do you know what I'm
Yeah, yeah.
saying? Like, I
Right.
can visualize, you know, and it's like, and just, as somebody who has studied the Haiti Revolution and Papa Dessalines in particular, this sounds this is the spirit of Dessalines.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I kind of like that's kind of why I'm so proud of it, because I feel like I really captured. Okay, so hold on to start better. A lot. I'm not good with compliments, right? So I appreciate what you said, and I'll take it in advisement.
Yes, sir.
Um,
Yes,
but a
sir.
lot of the writing I can also attribute to CLR James, and just in case anybody think, you know, I was joking, people idea, you know. But
Yeah,
CLR
me have
James,
mine too.
CLR James' prose itself is quite engaging. So he was
True,
like he
true,
took me into the environment. So I was able
true,
to.
true, true,
This
true.
is why I say I feel that my strength lies better in editing. But I will take
Right.
your compliments to heart, because I actively do want to expand this work. In particular, if
Right.
this is either the only one I do or the first one I do
Yeah.
for a long
Yeah.
while, I want to finish this one.
Yeah.
You know,
I tell you this, Robert. Don't even downplay the editing thing, because a lot of people that write can't edit. Yeah. So that is a skill and a talent even in and of itself. You see what I'm saying? A lot of people that cannot edit. Yeah. It's a skill. Yeah. Yeah. Believe me. Yeah. So trust me, own it. Own all
bless you, bro.
the compliment them. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Own all the compliment them. People check out brother Setem Imhotep's work. Yeah. The link is in the chat for that. I'm definitely gonna I might even take in the rest of this before we go to bed tonight, you know. Go to bed with
Gotcha.
you know, the spirit of Jean-Jacques Dessalines. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'm gonna come back to you, all the brothers on the panel at the moment. Call for any sisters before I close out. I would love to hear the voice of a sister, yeah, on the panel. So you know what I mean. The link is in the chat, family. The link is in the chat. Feel free to come through. We're gonna done soon still, so don't leave it too long. But yeah, you know, you can come through, raise a point. Yeah, as you can see, yeah, people have raised eclectic points, yeah, and you know what I'm saying. I love brother Setem Imhotep's contribution, because it take us somewhere else completely, a new dimension. Let's bring our ancestor into the conversation and let's
Yeah.
bring him to life. Yeah, and
That's
I
right.
feel honored to have.
Now
Yeah?
you do it
Say
first.
again?
You call his name. You call his name, and that's already make me jump on the panel.
Well,
Okay,
I
call
hear
his
you,
name.
but it was brought to life, and I feel honored to have read that. Yeah, I feel
That's
honored to
right.
have read in the voice
Osiris,
of
resurrection.
and that was it. The only issue that we have is that we can't speak the Aisen, the patois, you know, the Creole. You know what I'm saying? So when we learn the Creole, we'll do it in Creole. You know?
That's on Haitian Creole or Creole Haitian is on Duolingo. I started learning it. I've like dropped off, but I also like I thought to myself, this would be really good to like put in Creole Haitian and publish it in Haitian and more like. I don't know. I want to finish it and put it in a book. I really do.
Yeah. That would be beautiful. And you know what? I recently put out something in relation to the relationship between Jamaican patois and Haitian, language, all right, and the similarities there. Yeah, it's actually the appendix to this book. I was just reading a piece of the appendix to this book, Understanding Jamaican Patois by L. Emily Adams. Yeah, and basically she's saying, you know, if a linguist was to find them language in a couple centuries time, as an archaeologist, they will consider them the same language. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Let me go to the chat. And yeah, like I said, any sisters in the audience, I would love to hear a sister come through, you know what I'm saying, on the panel, if you so wish. Bigging up to Bobby E right in the building. Scattered Minds there. Bigging up to Rain Falling Sounds. What's it called? It says all Black Jamaicans have a right to the land, not just Maroons. Exactly, the Maroons keep throwing the British treaty in our faces. I'm not going to call the Maroons traitors, not collectively anyway. Yeah, I think that the Maroons were faced with a unique set of circumstances. Yeah, that I think we need to understand. Okay, but the treaty itself, yes, right, is treacherous. Yeah, right, and we need to understand the nuances around that. Okay, we need to understand all of the arguments. Yeah, but yeah, we more importantly, when we come to this day and age, yeah, we need to be clear who is a colonizer, yes, and who is not. And I think I've got a sister coming through. Let me see who this is. Greetings, Rose.
Hi, you got me real natural on here today.
Yeah, I so we love it, sister. I so we love it. All natural.
Yes,
yeah,
I'm somebody's mama. You know what I'm saying? You just got to keep it real.
I'm somebody's baba, and I saw it go. You know what I'm saying? And I'm there with somebody's mother, so I know how it goes, my sister. Stay where you are. Stay where you are. I want to acknowledge the chat quickly, and I'm gonna come back to you, sis. All right? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's how we like it. You know what I'm saying? Let me see. What haplogroup the Maroon come from? Yeah, that's obviously a joke. So yeah, but I take your point. Agreed. Maroons as a format, yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, and it's not even just in terms of, obviously, like you'd have to update and evolve and flesh out. What I'm saying is that the Maroon spirit and culture, yes, is foundational, and the preservation of what is there should form the foundation for our ideal of what our nation represents, right? Just what I'm saying, like what kind of sovereignty that we're looking for, because that is where the most of our retentions are culturally, the things that tell us who we are as a people. Yeah, I shouldn't say the most, but a significant aspect in the form of self-sustaining community, or the attempt so to create. Yeah, you know, like them say the British get their sense of self, yeah, from the crown, the monarchy, and what it represents. Yeah, this country is not governed by a monarchy in the same way that it was 300-400 years ago, but from that institution they establish what it means to be British. You see what I'm saying? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Yeah.
Right.
And
so we should be able to use the Maroons to say what it means to be Jamaican.
As that, should be able to. I'm saying should be able to. I'm not even saying we can. I'm saying that should be the case.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm saying all things being equal. I see through. Well, you're on the panel, so I'm not gonna read that, especially in case them start telling me something anti-Semitic and want to shut down the channel and that kind of different thing. Could you outline the Maroon government structure, like executive, legislative, judiciary, contours, or property rights? As far as I understand it, so this is obviously the concern of neoliberal sensibilities. I couldn't break down the entire Maroon social structure to you off the top of my head. What I do know is that they have the chief is elected, yeah, within Maroon towns, and the chief has a council, yes, that is elected, and then there is a body of elders, yeah, that I believe is appointed by the community. So you don't elect elders every so often, but the elders who have served the community are appointed every so often. That's what I understand of it. It is a beautiful question, though, yeah. Regardless of where the question comes from, it's a beautiful question, and one that I will look more into in terms of the specifics. As far as property rights, indigenous African communities are communal. And so, as far as I'm aware, the dominant or the original system of ownership, as far as Maroon settlements are concerned, is collectivist. Yeah, that's as far as I understand it, and that's not just in Jamaica, but also in places like Suriname, in places like Haiti, in places like St. Vincent, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so that's as far as I understand it. But yeah, that would be a good an interesting study. I'm sure there are studies on that, and I'll look into it. In fact, I have come across studies on that, so we'll see if I can find them again and go through. Let me see if there's anything else in the chat before I come to Sister Rose. ShakaRa speaks. Udonangozi, my brother, we love your platform here in Louisiana. Give thanks, keep up the great work. 10-9 Mwari. Give thanks. For Africa, saying shout out to Bobby E. Wright, and giving much support and respect, much appreciated. And I think that's it for the chat so far. Yes, the brother has a Trinity accent. He's in Trinidad. Yeah. What I love about this, is I always get people from international come through on the platform. So we give thanks. And I'm saying we give thanks. Oh, 1 second. Sorry, I missed something. CLR James, anti-Garvey comment. Yeah, CLR James was a critic of Marcus Garvey and an opposer to some degree. I believe that he did change some of his ideas later on in life. At the same time, The Black Jacobins is a very good book to read. Yeah, so you know what I mean. So I said, there are many, and I'm not even sure if CLR alluded to communism. Actually, I think he was more of a socialist. But when you hear commie, that is McCarthy's speech. You know, that Cold War language is a slur, yeah, for anybody who doesn't agree with capitalism. So it's not even. I'm just saying that because the brother may not be identifying CLR James's specific politics more than throwing a slur, yeah, at this point in time. And nothing wrong with analyzing, agreeing or disagreeing with politics, but we have to clear about the perspective that people are critiquing from at the same time also. Yeah. So yeah, if you want to understand the Haiti Revolution, the Black Jacobins is a must read. You know what I'm saying, among other texts. I would also suggest The Irritated Genie by Baba Jacob Carruthers. Yeah, as another excellent book. And there are others. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, George, actually no, the African communal lie has already been exposed by Ghana's economist George Aite. That's actually false. Yeah? George Aite, although he does try to shoehorn capitalism into indigenous African societies, he never questions the fact that they were collectivists, yeah, in their approach. That is not questioned in George Aite. Yeah, so I'm not sure where you get that from, but it was a good try. You know what I'm saying? It's a good try. You know. At the same time, George Ayete, you know, was another African, unfortunately. Now, again, this to come back to what I was saying before, right? George Ayete is a good person to read. However, he was sponsored by the Manhattan Institute, yeah, which is a think tank in America that is designed to promote America's interest economically around the world. So we just have to bear that in mind. Yeah, so cool. All right. Yeah. But again, you know, read George Ayete is an interesting brother to read. And he's now passed away. But you know, whereas I disagree with his political inclinations, you can learn a lot from reading him. Yeah. So read him. All right. We're gonna get to Rose. It's your time, my sister. And Coffee has decided that he needs his voice on the panel, so he's come through as well. So we'll get to Coffee. Go ahead, Rose, in all your natural beauty.
Oh, thank you. I really love always chiming in and watching you each week. Very insightful information, and there's just so much that we have to get caught up on that there's no time to waste. But I just wanted to say to Brother Karu, we already follow each other on social media. But you coming and presenting your written work was very enlightening to me to understand what you do. And I think that what you have, your gift is a gem, and it really needs that. We need that, especially for young people, young readers. They're actually very much into fan fiction and things like that. And if you're spending all that time reading that, you need to be reading something that has some solid substance, you know, of historical past. So I absolutely love that. I love prose. I specialize in creative writing. And if you would like, I would love to also showcase you on part of my site, my website as well. You know, because I work in cannabis, so I have a site called Inclusive Indica. But I think what you have is more appropriate for my back end site, Indelible Indica, and that's more of the like activism side, more of the nation side. So if you want, I think that you need to be spoken about, and people need to learn about you, so that the important leaders of us coming to tomorrow, they'll be able to share stuff like that with their children to get them interested in what they're doing in a more relevant way. You know, don't ever downplay anything that you're doing right now. I don't think you realize how special that is. Just reading that and how well written and how focused and the historical context behind that. You need to find as many of our ancestors as possible that have been important in the liberation struggle, and write from their point of view and perspective, from how you've connected with their spirit and into your writing. And it's amazing just for them. You're giving them their you're allowing them to you're amplifying their voice is what you're doing, and that's important. Yes. And I want to put a crown on that and let people really see that. So definitely write back. I sent you a message on Instagram. Just write me back whenever you have a chance, and we can kind of go from there if you're interested.
Yeah, I actually responded already just before you came onto the panel. To be honest with you, I would like to refine or maybe expand that work more. But you know something, I'm actually very proud of it as it stands. So I have no problem with you highlighting it on the website. But I definitely want, like, I appreciate let's say the cosign from the panel because I've really been seriously contemplating doing exactly what you said, like trying to go through history and seeing as much. In the ancient Egyptian concept, nobody dies until their name ceases to be spoken. So I'm actively trying to
preserve that immortality.
Yeah, like lionize some of our heroes. Like I grew up learning about things like Richard the Lionheart and like Alexander the Great and that kind of foolishness, you know. Like I know too much about
William the Conqueror.
Yeah, you know, too much about them that I really ought to know, and not nearly enough about our own ancestral freedom fighters. Not just freedom fighters, but like administrators, architects, anything, you know, just people who are exemplars of our race. So I would like, well, I mean, race is a social contract. I'm not going to pretend it's not, but that being said, we live within that social construct. So so I really appreciate you guys co-sign. Yes, definitely. You can highlight it on the website. I wanna expand
Not
it.
highlighting the work, it would be highlighting you, because your soul is in this as well. No one else is
100%.
so connected with that ancestor to get that voice out. So that is just as important.
Well,
You're not an AI computer. You're a person with this ancestral connection, and doing this type of work gives you license to dive deeper into that and to spend time on it, because now you're making it part of a possible career for yourself, regardless of how you see it.
100%.
It's such a holistic thing to have such a well-rounded life. Now you're giving yourself the right to spend time really fully understanding that history. And a lot of people, in our generation of our race, they're just working so much they don't have time to sit down and read some of these things. And if you can give it in an abridged but authentic place in your
Definitely.
life, that is going to hold a lot of weight in the heart of somebody who will never have the ability to think, to buy a book from from a scholar or something, and not having access to that information. You're presenting it in a different way that people can access, and that's through the emotional and literary space.
100. My brother, what I am of the perspective, like I was a watcher of the Thrones as well, yeah. And one of my favorite genres, yeah, is actually historical fiction, yeah. And as African people, we definitely need historical fiction. What the two genres I think we need most right about now is science fiction and historical fiction, yeah, to bring to life our history in some creative ways, yeah. And my vision for institutions like gotkushTV is to be an institution that is able to develop that work, yeah, that we can just throw a budget at it and say, give it a producer and say, go and do your thing, develop that into a short or a full-time 12 episode series or a feature film or whatever. We have to get there, yeah. But as them said, to count stand, you start from where you stand. Yeah, you have to start where you stand, and I
You
have
should
to get there right.
definitely go to like some Black film festivals and start talking to people, just to get, even for storytelling. It doesn't have to mean that you're ever going to make this into a full live action production, but there's people there who have gone into producing published works in a lot of different ways. And I've learned that in me doing it because I want to develop a line of children's books. So I met someone who developed their children's book. She ended up turning it into a movie, so, and that's not part of my dream, but my mind may be limited for all I know. And maybe you don't want this to be published to the wider scope, but you can publish it in a way that's accessible. That's a privilege for us. You can do whatever you want with it. It could be a university text. And you take your time. You take your time to do it. Don't ever let nobody rush you in getting this work out, because it requires a lot of time, effort, energy, and emotional thought and feedback to read that, comprehend it, digest it for yourself, feel that emotion from it, and then write it, So just you have to find those formats that work for you. But at this current moment, if you're not at that point, let that creativity just flow, and it's going to end up how it ends up. And like you said, you're a phenomenal editor. It's already in pristine condition the way you have it. You even got sources. I'm like, this historical fiction. This nigga got sources.
It's beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Nothing.
Let me just say, just to add to that, yeah. Sorry, but let me bring through Coffee 1 second. Coffee, just so you know, someone I neglect you, yeah. You're there. we're just gonna finish up this conversation, and we'll come to you.
Yeah,
There's a, and I don't know, because you said that it's not a novel idea, but the format of it is something to be developed. Yeah, I think it's a format that more of us should use as creatives. That if we've got a text that is a historical text and we can bring it to life in a certain way, but we bring it to life using the scholarly work. Yeah, it's like providing references to what we just said in the scholarly work, so people don't have to necessarily read the whole book. Yeah, to get to draw from what our inspirations were. We provided them a window into the scholarly work through our creative endeavors. I think it's a format that we can replicate. Yeah. over a lot of different ways. You know what I'm saying? That's partly the reason why I appreciate it so much. But go ahead.
Well, to be clear, there were citations because this was a university assignment to begin with. But I published it with citations for the reason that,
Right.
as you say, anybody who is, let's say, moved by the story,
Yes.
knows where I got this information from. And the book itself is so chock full, it's full of so much more information that I haven't touched. That's only 5 days. And I spread those 5 days
Yes.
over about 2 years, because I think it ends in 1804 after he's already emperor. So it's like there's so much that I didn't cover whatsoever in that
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
That I wanted to really give credence to where I got the information from. I also especially since we're going to Brother Coffee now, I wanted to ask him if he's ever read Black Jacobins.
But can I quickly, because it's on topic, let me just jump in real quick, Shaq.
Yeah, go ahead. And then we'll come to coffee.
Yeah. What I heard earlier, I just feel like as well, Sister Rose, you made a very good point. But ShakaRa, if you're saying you've got mental blocks in a certain kind of way, and Set Imhotep is demonstrating this brilliant skill, you don't always have to do everything yourself, you know. Maybe
I agree with
certain
you.
conversations should be taken place.
I
Division of labor.
That's right.
Yeah,
outsource.
100. Indigenous African culture is very good at division of labor. You know what I'm saying? You know, so we give thanks, right? But no, you're right about that, my brother. And it's most of the TV shows that we watch here, the idea might have come from somebody, but there's a whole team of writers, and I would love to do that. Yeah, I would love to sit down with brother Set Imhotep, Sister Rose, you know Tugstar, you know what I'm saying, my brother Bunchi and Ayete, yeah, and others. Like there are so many writers that I know, yeah, that I've had a vision like of us all sitting down in a room together just writing something, yeah. Because you got teams of all these blockbuster shows, there's a whole team of writers, yeah, right. In the room for these things, and we need to collectivize in that kind of way. And so I agree with you, my brother, wholeheartedly. And so I love that, and I appreciate Sister Rose coming on just to affirm the talent that brother Imhotep has displayed, and add to the avenues for developing it. That's just beautiful to me.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate it.
And one more quick statement.
Yeah.
So
go ahead, sis.
Yes. So one of the things that I think is really important, I like to catch artists at their early stages, because there's a lot of like copyright issues, infringement and plagiarism going around. And if you can have something like when I showcase people on my site, it's almost like kind of giving them a timestamp. Like no one can ever steal your work, because here you see here, it was discussed here. You know, I don't post anyone's actual work. I will advertise if they ask me to, and I don't charge for any of that, because I pick the people that I find are special to go on there. You know, and I'm open to collaborate with any and everyone. But it's a way for them to also protect themselves. Like, oh no, you didn't write that, sir. We talked about this about 5 years ago. You see here, you know. So that's something too. I want people just to keep in mind when they're thinking of like, oh, is it too early for me to do an interview with a podcast or something like that, or whatever you're thinking of getting when you're thinking of pushing and promoting and scaling what your work is. It's okay to start in those early stages as long as you're kind of like having some discernment. But I'm not here to plagiarize nobody. I'm here to push us forward. And I want that for us. I find that it's important. Period. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Rose. You know what I'm saying? You came through with a beautiful energy and the beautiful all natural and everything. And it's just lovely. That's lovely. I appreciate it. Right now, the good thing about this panel is that we're talking about all this production, and we've got the capitalist that's going to fund all of this beautiful revolutionary work, for us. You know what I'm saying? We've got the good capitalist, free market fundamentalist that's going to give us the budget, to produce Setem Imhotep's Jean-Jacques Dessalines' revolutionary works. So let me introduce Brother Coffee, Comrade Coffee, to the proceedings.
Yeah,
go ahead, Comrade Coffee.
Yeah, The reason why I asked you about the Maroon governance structure.
Sorry, before you go in, Coffee, let me just. Sorry, King. Sorry, King. One second, King. Let me just big up to Dexter in the chat. Says big up family ZIVANAYI Vanava Mwadi, which I believe Vanai's children, right? ZIVANAYI, let's get to know each other, children of the Creator. And Tendai Mwani is be thankful unto the Creator, and then that is where my Shona ends, as far as what the brother has said. But I love the Shona language, you know, it's a beautiful, beautiful African language. But I will say it anyway. Zevazimo, oh, that's ancestors. Zevazimo Vakuro. So that's something to do with ancestors and greatness. Tendai Mwani Nevazvadzimu Vakuro. Something to do with ancestors and greatness. But yeah, correct if I'm wrong, Dexter. Looking forward to it. Go ahead, Coffee. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, as you know, in Jamaica, we have a process going to become a republic, right? And
yes,
just like in Barbados, the elites really want to try and find a way to continue the status quo under the guise of a republic or under a new governance structure. So that's why I asked you about the Maroons and what you found so enlightening about the Maroon government structure, you know, because you know it's all well and good to kill the oppressor and hang the politicians from the light posts, etc., etc. But after the revolution, after the and the kill of all the bourgeoisie and whatever, how are you going to fashion a new system in the name of liberty? Because you know, based on our experience, it's just like Animal Farm. You know, the pigs take over and the pigs turn like the oppressors. So I really wanted to know what was your attraction to the Maroon government structure. You know, the sister brought up whole issue of property rights. Yeah, these things are very important when you're fashioning a supposedly new structure. You know what I mean? You said that George Aite didn't contradict or undermine the the African socialism propaganda about African culture being communal in nature. Why did you say that? Or what led you to form that view?
There's a few things in there, so let's try and deal with all of them. The first thing is I never said the Maroon governance structure. I said the Maroons should form the foundation of what it means to be a sovereign nation in Jamaica. So it wasn't specific to do with the governance structure. Yeah, that's not to say that there's not things that we can learn from the governance structure. It just means that's not the point I was making. Okay, I'm sure there are things to learn from the governance structure, and I also said that you would have to develop that and evolve it, you know, to suit the scale of running a nation at that level. Okay, so yeah, let's just make that point particularly clear. But I will say that I believe that in the way, if we look at how Maroon communities operated and governed themselves in terms of the levels of a balance between centralization and decentralization from one community to the next, yeah, particularly under enslavement, I think there are things to learn. Each community had its own leadership, but it also had a leadership that communicated with the other Maroon communities, and they tried to serve their people in particular kinds of ways. I think that since so-called colonization, so independence and colonization, it would be true to say, and I've heard this discussion take place, that a lot of the governance structure of the Maroons has been eroded because it has been ineffectual. Yeah, much like all indigenous governance structures around the Black and other world. Yeah, so the same would be said for the indigenous peoples of the Americas in general, and so on. So it wouldn't be a matter of, and I know people seem to tend to believe this, so I'm making this point clear, it wouldn't be a matter of taking the Maroons government structure and superimposing it on a nation as is and saying that would suffice. That wouldn't suffice at all. Yeah, so maybe if and when we have more conversation, sorry, maybe if and when we have more detail 1 second. If and when we have more detailed conversation about the Maroon governance structure, I'll be able to identify exactly what I think is viable, what would need to evolve, and how, and so on and so forth. As far as George,
what would inform that?
and I don't.
Would it be concern for liberty or concern for tradition?
These are not diametrically opposed things. Yeah.
Yes, they are.
So
they are.
They're
Or
really
they can be. I should say
really
they can be, because some traditional.
It depends on what your tradition is. It depends on what your tradition is, and two.
Right. So
and two.
is the goal.
Liberty is liberty. Defined politically is a rather vague and often nebulous concept.
The absence of coercion, the absence of an authority to tell you what you can and cannot do. Coercion can be from.
Define liberty in that kind of way. But the people that the problem with that is that the people that define liberty and often promote it are allegiant to and often at the head of the biggest coercive systems in the world today.
Okay, so fine. How do you define liberty, and is liberty the primary concern or tradition?
Hold on. You can't say okay, fine, and then try to move on, because we're having a conversation.
No, because I'm not going to get in the weeds of European concept of liberty, not living up to liberty. Yes, understood.
It's not the weeds. We can have abstraction is good and beautiful, but it must be balanced with an analysis in real terms. And so what I'm simply doing is applying the terminology and the concepts that we're discussing in the abstract to how they apply on the real level. And so you're using political terminology, and I'm studied enough to understand the implications of the political implications of the terms that you are using. It's not that as though they only have dictionary definitions. No, these are terms that are used, and they have economic, military, and governmental systems behind them that are in fact coercive. Yeah, so it's important to identify that when having a conversation such as this. Yeah, okay, that's the first.
And how should we as Black people define liberty?
It's a very big question, right? But the point is that as it stands at the moment, our liberty to, let's say we define I'm going to use the term liberation, yeah, as the process by which we acquire the power to be masters of our own destiny, yes, as a collective of people, okay. And so when it comes to that particular quest, we have to deal with the fact that we are seeking liberation within a particular context. And that particular context is neo-colonialism. That particular context is the fact that our nationhood and our sovereignty and our humanity has been infringed upon for a number of centuries by a particular group of people and the institutions that they have developed. And so I was simply saying that when we look at the Maroon fight for liberation and nationhood, as opposed to the colonizer, the energy of that, the spirit of that, and the origin of that in terms of who we are as a people is something that should be able to serve as the foundation for the establishment of nationhood in today's world. The problem that we're having is that that process of that natural inclination is being hindered by the fact that so many of our Maroon brothers and sisters are hinging towards a treaty with the colonizer as a part of the establishment of ourselves as a nation. And that is a contradiction as far as I'm concerned. Sorry, I see free. You wanted to say something. I'll come back to you. Oh, your mic is muted. I didn't realize.
Kofi's muted. He doesn't know he's muted yet.
Sorry.
He's muted.
Yeah. One second, Coffee. Sorry. Imhotep, your messages can be seen. Yeah. Just making you know that. Yeah, go ahead, Coffee. And I see free. You did put your hand up. So if you want to say something, then
yeah.
To come through.
Go on, let Kofi speak first.
Go.
Yeah. So based on what you're saying, is the spirit of freedom, is the quest for liberty, or the Maroon quest for liberty and freedom should be the focal point of nationhood.
Yes, but also culture, yeah, of the Maroon people. So the cultural preservations, the
Yeah.
ontology, yeah, that comes
Yeah.
from that understand. I'm saying the cosmology, all of those things. And so when we talk about, for example, rewriting a constitution, yeah, what should form the foundational principles and values and cultural order that contributes to the way that constitution is written, who that constitution serves, who are the people that are adherent to that constitution. There should be many things that we can learn from what our maroon ancestors have left us that could inform that process. That's the point I'm making.
Well, you start to cross the Rubicon now on governance structure. Before you were talking about talking about governance. You were talking about this a spirit of nationhood coming out of the Maroon experience. But all right,
yeah,
all right. Let me just read.
Again,
Sorry, go on.
No. I wasn't saying that I'm excluding the governance structure. I'm saying that I wasn't speaking about that specifically. I was more speaking about it was more a conceptual and ontological statement that I was making, right? So that's why I use the example of the British monarchy. The British monarchy doesn't play the same role in British society that it did 200, 300, 400 years ago, but it is still a central institution through which the British understands itself as British. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. That's the point I was making. Yeah. So
yes, all right.
the evolution out of the monarchy, the parliament structure that didn't exist 400 years ago still exists under the monarchy officially. It pledges its allegiance to the crown. Yeah,
but it came about to restrict the monarch, though.
Yes, but it's this is the point I'm making. So the social and political order has changed, but how the nation understands itself within its foundational institutions is carried forward. So the monarchy and the role of the monarchy may change, but the government pledges its allegiance and acts with the authority of the monarchy. So yeah, it was designed to restrict the monarchy in some ways, but it was also designed to reform the role of the monarchy within the society. So now the monarchy doesn't do in and of itself. The monarchy does through acts of its parliament. Yeah,
which don't always agree with the monarchy, but all right. Let me just read something from the great Chancellor Williams, and it goes to the heart of it. Huh?
I'm impressed.
Yeah, it goes to the heart of the discussion and the whole idea of what kind of society we want to fashion. Because again, in a liberal society, the Maroons, they can be Maroon all they want, you know what I mean? And they can have their ontology, they can have their ceremonies and etc. Page 332, Chancellor Williams talking about the benefits of a liberal society, right? He said, Africans in a capitalist state have the freedom to organize and do for themselves things they would never be allowed to do in any communist state. This all-important fact must be acknowledged even by bitter enemies of the system simply because it is a fact. All right, so we can find similar quotes by the great Carlos Cooks about the benefits of a liberal society where Africans can practice communal structures or whatever structures they want. So again, when we're fashioning, when we're gonna fashion a new system, quote unquote new system, we have to be mindful of the foundation or the foundational principles that we're going to use. Because how is it that we're going to have a society where the Maroons and those who are against the Maroons, a lot of Jamaicans are against the Maroons, you know what I mean, against the Maroon history or the negative aspects of the Maroon history. Or you fashion a society where everybody can live together and everybody get what they want, you know what I mean? And that's basically what
every society has its spectrum of ideas, principles, and values that are allowed to flourish and be debated, and some will win and some will lose at different points in time. Yeah. And there are those principles and ideas that are frowned
Communist Cuba
upon
don't
and
have
made
that.
taboo.
There's no open debate in Communist Cuba.
I'm saying there is a lot of debate in I don't know if you call it communist or socialist Cuba. It's just that the debate might not be the same as it takes place in
Where you have
the
the word
capitalist
communist,
Britain or America.
Yo, you
I'm not.
you
It's not.
really going to
It's
deny
not
that
against.
Cuba is a communist?
It's not
Yeah,
against
exactly. I
anything.
learned the word there.
No, not particularly. There are
All right.
societies and
Well, it's a
people
communist country.
allow me to finish, please. There are societies and people and organizations that identify as communist, and then there are those that don't and identify as socialist. Yeah. And so it's just about being accurate and true to the definitions. Yeah. And also understanding the term communism as a weapon within Western imperialist capitalist society, whereby it is used as a strong term to justify military action. Yeah. And so I'm very conscious of that. So Russia, some would define it as communist. Some say actually Russia was communist in its ideals, but never actually achieved communism in practice. Yeah. And then there are those who say who
political ideas are political ideals. I mean, America is a capitalist, but it don't achieve ideal capitalism.
Sorry. Allow me to make the point. Thank you. Yeah. Then there are nuances between socialism and communism as political ideals. So there are people that adhere to socialism but don't adhere to communism, and so on and so forth. So I'm just saying I don't know if Cuba as currently constituted would be considered a communist state. It is popularly referred to as socialist, and I believe that Cuba itself self-defines as socialist. That is the only point I was making. Yeah. So we're not denying that it's socialist. I'm just questioning whether communism is an appropriate term.
State ownership of the means of production. Simple as that.
Yeah, but state. There are some would say that classical or real communism doesn't believe in the existence of a state, right?
No, eventually they believe in a classless society, but the interim is the dictatorship of the proletariat. That requires state ownership.
But whether it's transitional or not, state ownership would not be a communist principle by that definition. So that's why we have to be specific. Yeah, we just have to be specific. Yeah, that's all we're saying.
Okay,
right, we've got 5 minutes left. I have to keep the show to 2 hours, and it's 10:05 now, and I started at 8 o'clock. But I'm gonna give you another bite at this apple, if you want it. So go feed. But I'm just letting you know we have to wrap up soon. Yeah. So go ahead, Coffee. Go ahead.
No, the George Ayete question. You said that he didn't.
For that. So in the book Indigenous African Institutions, I believe it is. Yeah. I said that he tries to shoe, and forgive me because it's a while since I've read this. So the details of it are not clear in my mind at the moment. But he does try to shoehorn capitalism into indigenous African, what's the word? Economic systems. But the idea that he denies a collectivist inclination among African people is I don't. That's not what I recall. What I recall is him saying that he draws a difference between what he calls what you might say is the African version of capitalism and the Western version of capitalism that is currently in train. And the primary difference is that land, for example, is not considered to be private property. Yes, land is
George.
Sorry. And he does affirm that land, because nobody can deny this, is considered to be the preserve of communities. Yeah.
No, he didn't say that. He said land ownership. He says land ownership is in the family, is not in the state. You understand? So when African leaders, hold on. Yeah, but your family different from my family. All right. So it's not a communal in terms of one amorphous Africanness communal ownership. It's ownership within families. So
what I said was the point that I made that you were challenging was that I said that the dominant economic philosophy as regards to property rights within indigenous African societies is collectivists. That's what I said. And you said your response was, your response was to tell me that George Ayete destroyed that particular lie. Now, George Ayete can say what he wants. This is a principle that has been established by countless other people.
Yeah, I know. So therefore,
one second, I am simply saying that George Ayete does not say what you said he said, even though he's trying to make the argument that indigenous African societies are capitalist. He does not deny the collectivist inclination and the dominant collective social organization. He doesn't deny
He's saying that ownership is in the family, not in the state, and therefore the socialist regimes of Nkrumah and Nyerere that collectivize ownership in the state are not African in terms of traditional practices. All right, that's what he's saying when he says. His whole point.
The reality is on that point, I would be inclined to agree that chiefs and kings and royal families do not own land in or like, for example, in feudalist Europe. And the fact is that on that point, he would be agreeing with the Asante for Kwame Nkrumah, because Nkrumah made that point himself. Yeah.
But in practice, Nkrumah exploited the cocoa farmers through the government coffee boards, etc. So again, the point is that
you have a very bad habit of interrupting people's points, and I allowed you a minute ago. Allow me to finish saying what I'm saying. Yeah. So the point is that saying that the state doesn't own is not the same as saying that the inclination is not collectivist. State ownership and collectivism are not synonymous. Yeah, and this is the trick. Yeah, the game that the free market fundamentalists like to play. When you speak about collective development, collectivist inclinations within economic development, immediately they run to state ownership because they're still fighting the Cold War.
Because that was Nkrumah, that was Nyerere, that was Maurice Bishop.
In fact, it wasn't.
This is a misrepresentation. That's what I said. You sound like a communist propagandist now, because Maurice Bishop, Nyerere, these were all Marxists that saw the state ownership of the means of production as primary, and you can want to deny that. No, it means that spread propaganda.
So again, we're oscillating the point, because even if what you are saying in relation to those people and their government is true, even if that is true, that was not the point that was being made. The point that was being made was that indigenous African economic systems have a collectivist inclination around property ownership. That is the point that was being
Maurice Bishop, Nkrumah, and Nyerere. Why you praise them then?
Even if Nyerere is wrong, Nkrumah is wrong, and Maurice Bishop is wrong, it doesn't defeat the point. Yeah, that's so we're not going to deflect from the point. You try.
Well, we're making progress now. We're making progress, even if you grudgingly admit that there were.
Sorry. You tried to obfuscate the point by saying that George Ayete challenges this inclination among the reality of this inclination among African people. And I am saying that that is not the case in relation to George Ayete. He doesn't do that in the way that you're suggesting that he does. And two, even if he does, it doesn't mean that he's correct. This is a feature.
That's the rub. That's the rub for you. Right? No amount of empirical evidence going to contradict your ideology, which is socialism.
No. Sorry. It's not about George Ayete making.
That's why he attacked his connections to the Heritage Foundation and all of that, blah blah. Yeah, because he really want to undermine him credibility.
Not particularly. Yeah, in the same way that you were trying to undermine CLR James' credibility by calling him a commie. In both instances,
because he was a communist.
In both, and so was George Ayete, funded by American right-wing think tanks, right?
Yeah.
But in both instances, I said that the book them is good to read. Yeah, in both instances, that statement was made. Okay, so we're not biased in that kind of way. George Ayate, in terms of understanding certain ideas of geopolitics, is a very good source to read. I don't necessarily agree with his conclusions, but I would consider him somebody that is important to read. Yeah. CLR James as a Garveyite is somebody who I have a lot of criticisms for, but his book on the Haiti Revolution.
What?
As an,
what? CLR James as what?
CLR James as somebody who's a Garveyite. So 1 second, sorry. CLR James as somebody who's a Garveyite is somebody who I have a lot of criticisms for. But his book on the Haiti Revolution is a must read as far as understanding the Haiti Revolution.
When did James become a Garveyite? Yeah? When in his illustrious career did he become a Garveyite? Pardon?
Sorry. I never said that James became a Garveyite. I'm saying that I, as a Garveyite, have criticisms for CLR James. That doesn't stop me from saying that his book on the Haiti Revolution is a very good book to read. That's the only point that I'm making.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. IC3, set them Imhotep, and then we're gonna have to close because we know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Go
ahead. What do you think of this? I was just listening to your discussion between you, ShakaRa, and Kofi, and it's it's all about what is the correct model to this is how I'm understanding it, how I'm seeing it. You're discussing trying to find the correct model and the most or the best model to organize Black Africa or Black African people in order to effectively counter the power of white supremacy on a global level.
No. Yes, but no. So there's two things here. There is one. Right? There is one.
No, go on.
I would say yes.
There is one countering the power of white supremacy, and there is two serving our best interests as a collective of people. Yeah, does that make sense? All right. So I want to highlight.
I disagree.
So those are two.
Well, they're the same.
Right?
No, they're the same.
1 second. No, yeah, they are the same, but they understand the emphasis. Understand the emphasis that I'm saying. Yeah. Because one could say, one could emphasize the challenging of white supremacy, yes. But to what extent are we providing goods and services for ourselves in the challenging of white supremacy? So it's important to emphasize both for the clarity of the audience that is listening. Yeah. So when we're talking about going to war, we are talking about developing systems. Yeah. In other words, in the absence of white supremacy, how do we serve and cater for ourselves and each other?
Well,
those are two simultaneously
through private property. Private property is the machinery of freedom, as David.
And I am saying that our indigenous economic systems, gave us examples in terms of, well, first of all, that private property as the basis of an economic system has failed, and has failed to serve the interests of African people in particular.
Really?
Yes, 100%. And by your own admission, you can check out the Brother Coffee's talk.
No, I'm not saying private property failed. I'm saying that liberalism failed to prevent the centralization of
itself, right? At the same time, those systems of our indigenous system that prioritize people over property, yes, did more in terms of serving the people. And what we're having a conversation, and so conversations tend to be filled with sentences, and so you can
slogan. People over profit.
If you want.
Social ownership.
And private property and freedom is also a slogan.
But you have it there now. You have the private property here now. This is your show, and your microphone. That's your property. And the sister spoke about property rights in terms of entertainment.
People show.
So obviously, property rights is very important.
The people show. Right.
the people,
ShakaRa,
Yeah,
ShakaRa,
again,
yeah,
ShakaRa.
right.
again,
That's another
people
slogan.
are again. So one second, sorry. Again, people are an end in and of themselves. So the
Right,
personal is
right.
important. The collective is also important, right? The
Yeah.
question then becomes what forms the foundation of our economy? And do we allow a situation in which, as the advocates of the private property sloganeering have accomplished in today's world, to concentrate wealth, yes, via robbery and theft in the hands of a few to the detriment of the overwhelming majority of the population?
Yet
And I
still
think that as
poverty
Africans,
plummet in the last 20 years because of trade liberalization
I
and
think that as
increasing
African people,
productivity and growth in the
I think
third
that as
world.
African
China
I
and
noticed,
India adopted property rights
I know,
and therefore
I
they
noticed,
flourish.
I noticed. Yeah, sloganeering, right? So
No,
and you've
I
interrupted
can
me to
bring you the
slogan.
empirical evidence.
Sorry,
I can bring you the empirical
and
evidence is there,
and
but you
so
don't
and
want
and,
to acknowledge it.
and so can I, of the things that I am saying. At the same
Really?
time, when I've said it,
Name
you
the book.
at the
Name the
same time,
book.
at the same time, when I've said it, you have accused me of sloganeering in a
All right, name the
conversation
book
whereby
that
we're not
show
having
that poverty increased
there are
in the last 20
but
years.
again,
What,
so
Thomas Piketty
we start here. You
or
interrupt.
Joseph
I'm responding
Stiglitz?
to this. You interrupt and take me somewhere else, and then ask me to respond to that, and then you interrupt me again and take me somewhere else and ask me to respond to that. It's not going to work, right? It's not going to work. So now you want me to provide you a reading list of all of the things that substantiate what I'm saying. There's not even a fair request to make at this point in time, especially when we're closing the show and I've already announced this 20 minutes
Well,
ago.
I can
All right.
give you a book right off the top of my head.
Sorry. I'm sure you can, because the argument, yeah, for the neoliberals is well established and very
Because
well resourced. I have no
poverty
doubt. One
is
second.
central to what I
I have
am
no
dealing with.
doubt. I have
You
no
have to
doubt. I have
understand
no
what
doubt. Sorry,
reduces
I have no
poverty.
doubt. I'm affirming what you're saying. I have no doubt
All
that
right, I see.
all of
All
the
right.
think tanks in America, yeah, I have no doubt that all of the think tanks in America and France and Britain have provided you all, yeah, with the whole of the reading material, all of the talking points and the slogans. I have no doubt about that. All right. So we're not questioning whether you can source what you have said. Yeah, I've seen how it wanna work. I'm a no say when on the
I
work
mean,
you have all of the oh no, the neoliberal them. Oh no, yeah, the
I'm not a
disciples of Milton
neoliberal.
Friedman and Ronald Reagan. Yeah. No, I stand corrected. You're not a neoliberal. You're just a disciple of Milton Friedman, the father of
Will
neoliberals.
neoliberals be allowed
The
in your governance structure, in your alternative governance structure? Will they be allowed to write books and make arguments,
Yeah.
publish books,
yeah,
speeches?
This
yeah,
discussion
Huh?
is
yeah,
is the
certainly,
highest level
Certainly.
discussion
Okay,
on
well,
governance,
that means you're a
and
liberal.
certainly,
government,
certainly.
how to manage
Okay,
and govern
okay, coffee.
the
Okay,
Black African people,
okay.
counter to
At the
white
same
supremacy.
time, at the same time we live in a society that criminalizes a revolutionary African thought and organization, right? So
Which one?
to the extent that we live this society, in fact, the FBI charged Asata Shakur the other day with continuing to promote her terrorist ideology, not terrorist action, but terrorist ideology. So yeah, you know what I'm saying. I saw it go. We live in a world that sends in machineries of state against governments that it doesn't like, that challenge its authority.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
live in a world
within
of
their own nations,
contradiction.
right? You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
I agree.
We live in a world that puts economic sanctions on nations that it doesn't like, yeah, for policies that
Yeah.
it enacts in its own nation state, yeah. So
So therefore, we live in an illiberal world.
I just saw it go. But anyway, family, it's been beautiful. Yeah, I do have to close the show. You know what I'm saying? And we enjoyed it. One of the things though that I do want to develop here on gotkushTV is a study group here, whereby we produce a high production level study circles, yeah, reading groups, yeah, and so I'm trying to figure.
Or not functioning properly. You see, That's what happened to our people's program. No ownership, no capital investment. That's
Yeah, I'm
what
on your
happens
side
when
here, Kofi.
that's what happens when
It'll be
property is
interesting.
collectively owned.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there's if I agree with you totally. But what you're saying and your angle, it sounds I'm on your side, but I'd like to explore if there's any differences in between my solution and your solution. Yeah, because my position, I'm saying that the system of white supremacy is a complete, financial, political, and cultural ecosystem. And so they cannot afford to have any cracks in any aspect of that complete ecosystem, because then the whole thing will start to crumble. And because people classified as black Africans, we are within that ecosystem. We have to construct something within the ecosystem that will construct something outside of the ecosystem. And that thing outside of the ecosystem, there's no language for it. So that's why there's always a debate and problem when you're trying to describe what that entity is, because there is no language for that new entity that will be constructed outside of this complete ecosystem.
Well, you know what some of the analytic philosophers said, that if language can't describe it, that means it don't exist.
Oh, well, so therefore you have to create language. Yes, you have to create words. Yes, because that's how language it comes about, doesn't it?
Or that's how reality comes about.
Pardon?
Or that's how reality comes about, through language.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a construction. A culture is constructed. Financial systems it's all constructs. So you need people that are of a constructive state of mind, that they can use. They know about finance. They know about politics. They know about culture, and they're constructing that which is necessary. So it's a construct.
But you need freedom for that. You need freedom for that. If I am not free to own property and exchange property, then you don't have freedom, because I can't do what I want to with my possessions. If somebody going to tell me I can't plant X or I can't exchange Y, that's not freedom. That's coercion.
Yeah,
right? So the society that you want to build up, it can only build up on a foundation of freedom.
Okay, so
how on the kind of era? Sorry.
Yeah, man.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, apologies, family. Yeah, but like I said, look like MI6 come for me, you know. Them know why, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man. It's after you mentioned FBI.
Yeah, man. Them not like how much I challenge up the neoliberal agenda, you know. So you know, them come for me. But listen, family, this is a beautiful conversation. Whether we agree or disagree, these are the kinds of conversations that we need to be having and ironing out for our people. I don't want to cut it, but I do have to cut it. Yeah. So
if you could permit me,
apologies. Set them out because you bring Desalis come to it. I'm gonna give you one dispensation for got you and say what you want to say, and then we're going to close out. Yeah. So got you.
Well, the family for Africa asked a question of me in the YouTube chat, so the answer is like right beneath there. That's one. And I noticed Brother Coffee never answered the question whether he had read Black Jacobins. So I just wanted to know if he had read.
Oh yeah, yeah, I was forced to read it at UA.
Wow, well, I wish I had the blessing you had to be forced to be able to read it. I had to find that by accident, you know.
You know what I'm saying? It was with resentment, you know. What it means is that in the war read Friedman them time there, you know, and them you know.
I wish I knew about Friedman them time.
You know, of course you do.
Exactly.
I tell you what, he's a Marxist professor. He's a Marxist professor. You introduced me to F.A. Hayek. You know, he's a Marxist professor.
Indeed.
Brian
I can believe that, but no worries though. You know, the Friedmanites were operating in the government, So you was well taken care of. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There are no Friedmanites in Jamaica.
All right. That's another subject for another time. Family, blessings, yeah. You know what I mean? You know, love to honor, you know what I'm saying? It's everything blessed, you know what I mean? You know, even if you're a capitalist, we're still brothers and sisters. So we give thanks, all right? So yeah, what good, everybody.
Take care.
All right. Am I still here? Can everybody
Your voice
see
is
and
here,
hear? Right?
ShakaRa. Your voice is here, but your visuals. Oh, you're back. You're back.
Am I still there?
You're back.
You can still hear, right?
Yes, but you can't hear.
But I might check.
You can't hear.
Can I be heard? I want
Yes.
to make sure I haven't fallen off before I
Yes, you can.
before I close off the thing. Okay, I can be heard. All right, cool. Yes, family. So this is ZIVANAYI. For those who are just tuning in or coming late, ZIVANAYI, our weekly show on gotkushTV. At some point, I'm gonna stop streaming, simulcasting or simul streaming through my personals as well. I'm just doing this to promote the show on gotkushTV, and it's just get to know you.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine bele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine bele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine bele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine bele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine bele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine bele obiama.
bakabuzi nenge